Hi guys, it's ASBYT and welcome back to a brand new video, and the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S has finally dropped. It is here, the event in Shanghai has taken place, and I'm going to take you through all of the details of this brand new device. So let's go. Hi guys, like I said, welcome back to a brand new video. So today we're going to be taking a first look at the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S. I'm going to be reviewing all of the specifications, all of the new features, etc., the design. So of course the Xiaomi event took place in Shanghai, and it confirmed a lot of things we were expecting due to the renders, the leaks, all the rumors coming out. But of course we're clarifying exactly every little detail. So first thing to note, they actually revealed a new gaming laptop as well as a few other bits of information, including the fact that I believe the smartphone revenue for Xiaomi now sits at 4th in the world out of every single company. So we've got Apple and Samsung and Huawei, and Xiaomi in 4th, but the three above actually dropped percentages, whereas Xiaomi was up 96%, which is absolutely incredible for their company. But of course you're here for the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S. So number one, we're going to look at the design. And if you saw my video a couple of days ago, what I mentioned you will probably be getting from the rear side actually was confirmed as true. The front, however, was slightly different to a lot of people's leaked renders, footage of notches in top right-hand corners, etc. Also in that video, I mentioned two things that I wanted to see improved. One was the camera, and two, I would like to see the design on the front slightly altered so that we don't have the selfie camera at the bottom, and we've got one of those. Again, on that video, I mentioned one of the main things at the launch of the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S is the fact that they are redesigning the camera, similar to how Samsung did it with the S9, because that was one of the biggest criticisms of the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2 in the first place. So the actual device is made of ceramic with an aluminium frame. The screen to body ratio as well is going to be larger, only marginally, but it is larger. And of course there is space for the speaker, etc., just at the top of the display, so it doesn't need to be under the display. And Xiaomi's slogan with the Mi Mix line is apparently one side technology, one side art. And it's evident that that is definitely the case with this range, because they are beautiful devices. They are quite compared to other smartphones, they probably are the best looking devices on the market. It comes in three different variants: a black, a white, and of course a higher spec model as well, and we'll get to specs in a second. The white one has silver casing around the rear dual camera, whereas the black has 18 karat gold. The same as what we saw on the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2. As you can see here, we've got the gold housing around that camera, and it's very similar to the Mi Mix 2. It's a beautifully designed phone. It's very premium in the hand. It looks absolutely incredible, but there were a few issues which on some fronts they've altered. So that camera is a dual 12 megapixel camera, and it's got a wide angle lens and a telephoto lens. So that's good to see the use of a wide angle lens in that rear camera. So for taking scenery shots and group photos, etc., that is going to come in handy. Some of the features include optical zoom, a bokeh effect, and you can see some of the pictures now. It does look like it's improved, and it needed to improve from the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2. It uses a Sony IMX363 sensor with a 1.4 macron pixel, and if you compare it to the iPhone 10, that only uses 1.25. It also has dual pixel autofocus with 24 million focusing units, which is up from 12 million before, so you're going to get much better low light performance in terms of faster and more accurate autofocus in low light. And again, at the event they demoed the two different phones, the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S and the iPhone 10, taking photos, and as you can see from the footage, the autofocus is far quicker on the Xiaomi phone than it is on the Apple phone. We've got a couple more comparisons with Apple, and then we'll get to my opinion of Xiaomi using Apple in their event so much. This phone will also use optical image stabilization, and it has noise reduction technology, which again, when it's compared to pictures taken on the iPhone 10, when zoomed in, the clarity seems far greater on the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S. Obviously, these are pictures taken from the Xiaomi camp, so I would like to test it myself to know whether that is indeed an accurate reflection of all photos taken, but certainly on the photos they selected, you can definitely see a clearer image on the Xiaomi phone. Another feature of the camera is the fact that if you're taking photos from a distance of something that has text in, there is an actual software button on the camera app that you can press which is meant to sharpen and clean up that text part of the image, which would be really useful if you're in conferences or at events and you want actually information on a banner or a poster or a PowerPoint presentation. You will be able to snap that, take it away, sharpen it up, and you will still have the information and it won't be all grainy. Now, one of the biggest ways to actually test cameras, score cameras at this moment in time on smartphones is using DxOMark, which is a sort of independent scoring system which actually ranks phones and gives them an actual final score, a final figure. And just as a comparison, the Samsung S9 came in at 99, which was, I believe at the time, the highest possible score on a smartphone. Well, it has been announced at this event that the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S has a score of 101, so it just tips the Samsung S9 apparently according to this score. But again, until you can test it in real life, it will be interesting to see how that actually reflects in everyday real-time use. Right, so now we're going to jump onto the actual specific specs and kind of flip back on the first one because, of course, as we well know, it is running the Qualcomm Snapdragon 845, which is the best chipset, barring some arguments for the Samsung in-house Exynos processor. Outside that, the best on the market is the 845. I also mentioned on a previous video a while ago that it might potentially be the first ever Snapdragon 845 to be used on a smartphone due to the leaks that went out on Twitter, for example. And these actual statements, these quotes were actually confirmed. It's the first ever Snapdragon 845 to be released coming out of China. So it is still the first Snapdragon 845, but in China, not worldwide. And as you can see, it's given it a whopping benchmark figure here. Yeah, I said whopping. Due to the fact that they were kind of apparently at the event, that this is what they said, they were rushing to actually fit the 845 into what they built already around the phone, and because of that there may be a few things that will need to be developed as they go through. My only worry about that is that we may get a half-baked situation with some of the features with the camera, for example. I hope that's not the case. I will find out once it's available for me to test, and there may also be software updates as we go through as well. I would imagine there will be if there are any glaring issues with this fact. So we know the CPU, the GPU is going to be the Adreno 630. The base model is going to come with 6 GB of RAM, 64 GB of storage, and it's going to go up to 8 GB of RAM and 256 GB of storage for the most expensive version. And we'll get to price in a second. And that beast of a model is going to be on the sort of special. They did the same with the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2. They had like an ultimate edition, and it's going to be the same with this as well. One of the core features which could be impressive, but equally could be an interesting sort of Bixby-esque moment from Xiaomi, is the fact that they are introducing their own assistant, or at least they have done already, but it's the first time it's really been integrated properly in a smartphone. And it's pronounced, and I apologize if I get this wrong, Xiaomi. Something like that anyway. Basically, it's almost like, as you well know, with Google Assistant, with Siri, it's their sort of version, and it's their sort of attempt to try and create an ecosystem that they kind of are already building. Like they had a sort of home speaker system that they released last year, which used Xiaomi in it, and it allows you to wake up your smartphone, for example, just by saying Xiaomi. It will, you know, lift the screen so you don't have to double tap it or anything like that, if that's something you want to do, but you might look a little bit strange in public, sort of, shall I? On a train? No? Each to their own, I suppose. But as well as that, you can sort of turn your lights on, you can set music up, you can do all the things that you're well used to being able to do from those sort of smart home systems things. And they definitely, like Apple, are trying to jump onto this idea of this ecosystem and making every single product that somebody has a Xiaomi product. So before we jump onto price, etc., I'm just going to touch on this Apple idea just briefly, because I felt watching the event that it seemed very much Xiaomi versus Apple, and it's just not a ploy that I feel they really need to do. Every single feature they had on their phone, they sort of compared to the iPhone, whether it be Xiaomi versus Siri, whether it be the dual camera versus the iPhone dual camera. I mean, they even said we crushed the iPhone 10 about 6 times. Even the wireless charging, which it will actually come with at 7.5 volts, so slower than charging cable, but quicker than other wireless charging facilities at this moment in time on other devices. And they said that iPhone users can borrow your Mi wireless pad. Yeah, it was a little bit too much in my opinion. It was a bit excessive. It was unnecessary because Xiaomi make great products. They don't need to constantly try and prove to everyone that they're kind of the same or better than Apple. I don't think it's necessary, personally. Obviously, that's a personal thing. They probably don't care what I think, to be honest. So it has got global bans, again, like it did with the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2. And onto price, we have the base model, which is going to be very, very important and quite impressive for a lot of you guys. The base model at 6GB of RAM and 64GB of storage is going to start at $3,299, and that's obviously in Chinese currency, which equates to around 370 UK sterling, which when considered the actual specs on this phone, which is complete flagship, top quality, right up there with the best of the best in terms of those raw specs. That's a pretty impressive price. That is half the price of the Samsung S9. And then the top model, the 8GB of RAM and the 256GB of storage, is going to come in at $3,999, which equates to around 450 UK sterling. So it's really, really impressive that they've got these specs into that price range. And again, they're going to be competing with the OnePlus 6, for example, some of the Huawei phones. But at that price, I think they're going to do a pretty good job. The only issue that I still see with this Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S on paper is that bottom bezel and the front-facing shooter on the bottom of the screen. It's something that I really did not like on this phone, and that it prompts you to turn it round if you're taking a selfie. I find that very awkward. You can, of course, kind of do your own thing and put it in a different setup, but it's awkward. And I think it's unnecessary. Bezel on the top, if you made that a millimetre or two larger, you could fit the camera in that top bar, as far as I'm concerned anyway. Or you could do something like Essential did with their phone. They don't need to go the full notch route, but I don't think the bottom bezel for the camera is the solution, and I still think that will be a problem for a lot of people. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about having the front-facing shooter on the bottom bezel. Also, the design in general, what do you think of it? What do you think about the specs? How do you think it compares to the OnePlus 6 rumours? Current phones out there like the Samsung S9, the iPhone 10, how does it compare with those? How do you think the price is going to affect sales? Do you think a fairly mid-range price at a top spec phone is going to do it favours, or do you think that it's still not going to outperform the likes of the Samsung, the iPhone, all that sort of stuff? Love to hear your thoughts as always, and I will sift through them and try and answer as many questions or comments as possible. And that's pretty much it. Like and share if you did enjoy this video and found the information helpful. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notification bell so that every time I post a video, you are notified on anything smartphone related, anything tech in general, Android boxes, laptops, computers, tablets, headphones, all of that sort of goodness. I also do software and app reviews as well. Pretty much daily content on this channel. I love you and leave you. I'll see you in the next one. ASBYT, peace out.